SJ Howie, and welcome to part 3 of this Essential Concepts for Guitar series. So the first thing we're doing is a 10-part series all about the pentatonic scale. So last time we went over the cage system and the shapes of the pentatonic, and if you're fairly new to the pentatonic scale or you don't know all the shapes, I highly encourage you to go back and watch that and learn the shapes before you move on to this stuff. So today we're going to be going through some different techniques and we're going to start learning our first licks as well. So let's get into it. So in part 2 of this series we went over the cage system and all the scale shapes of the pentatonic. So as I said earlier, if you haven't watched that part or you don't know the scale shapes of the pentatonic scale, I highly encourage you to go back and watch part 2 and learn those scale shapes. Now for this part 3, we're going to start going over a few basic techniques and also start learning some of our first licks of the pentatonic scale. So the first technique that I want to go over is the hammer-on and the pull-off. So let's jump down to the fretboard and let's have a look at how we play a hammer-on and a pull-off. So with hammer-ons and pull-offs, it's a really simple technique, and all it is we're going to take our first finger here and we're going to put it on the 5th fret of the B string, and we're going to pluck that with the pick, like that, and then all we're going to do is we're not going to pick the string again, but we're going to take our little finger and we've kind of got to slam it onto the 8th fret. Like that. So that's how we do a hammer on, and a pull off is just the opposite. So if we had our little finger on the 8th fret there and we pluck that one with the pick and then do the opposite to a hammer on, and sort of pull that little finger off to sound that 5th fret that we've already got fretted. That's a pull-off, and we can combine those two together like this. So now we're playing 3 notes with 1 pick stroke. So as you can see, the hammer-on and the pull-off is a really simple technique, but highly effective. And now we're going to go over the next technique, which is bending. So we're going to jump back down to the fretboard and we're going to see how we do a bend. So bending is a technique that you will come across in every single solo that you will probably ever play. So the way to do it is we're going to take our 3rd finger and we're going to put it on the 7th fret of our G string here. And all we're going to do is we're going to put these 1st and 2nd fingers behind it on the same string just to give us a bit more strength. And we're going to play the 7th fret. And then all we're going to do is we're going to kind of push that string up towards the ceiling. Like that. And we want to use all 3 fingers just to make it a bit easier on the muscles in the hands. Now there's not really any rules to guitar playing, but one thing I tend to do is these bottom 3 strings I tend to bend up towards the ceiling. And these top 3 strings I tend to bend down towards the floor. Like that. Just so you've got enough fretboard to actually push the string. Because if we were trying to bend on this top string here, trying to bend up towards the ceiling, obviously the string would come off the fretboard and the bend wouldn't sound. So when we're bending, we bend the bottom 3 strings up towards the ceiling and the top 3 strings down towards the floor. So the simple bend is a really effective technique that you would have heard 1,000 times before, and it's something that you'll use from now on. So I think we should start learning a couple of licks. So we're going to jump back down to the fretboard and we're going to learn a lick that incorporates bending with hammer-ons and pull-offs together to create this really nice, tasty, slick lick that you'll be able to use. So for our first lick, we're going to be in the key of A minor and using the A minor pentatonic up here in the 5th fret position. So to start the lick, we're going to start off with a bend on the 7th fret. So we're going to bend that up, like that. And then next we're going to use our first finger and we're going to bar the 5th fret of the B string and the E string. Like that. So we're going to go. Then we're going to take our pinky, I'm going to put it on the 8th fret here of the 2nd string, or the B string. And then we're going to do a pull off from this 8th fret to the 5th fret. Like that. Then down to the 7th fret of the G string. And then the 5th fret of the G string. And then to finish off the lick, we're going to grab this 8th fret here on the B string, all our fingers behind it like I said before, and we're going to push that up towards the ceiling for a nice big bend just to finish off the lick. So all together that would sound like this. So as you can see, using bends with hammer-ons and pull-offs create this kind of fluid lick that sounds really quite good. So let's jump back down to the fretboard and let's learn another one that we can add to our lick vocabulary. So this next lick we're looking at is still in the key of A minor, and we're going to be starting with our first finger on the 13th fret here of the B string. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little hammer-on and pull-off to the 15th fret. So we hammer on to the 15th fret, then we pull off back to the 13th fret, then we're going to hit this 14th fret on the G string. So we're going. Then we play this 13th fret again. Then we bend the 15th fret of the B string up. And then with our pinky, we're going to hit the 15th fret of our first string. And then to finish it off, we're going to give that 15th fret another bend. Like that. So all together, that sounds like this. And a little bit faster. So now you've learnt your first 2 pentatonic licks, which is super cool because from now on you're just going to keep on learning them and learning them and learning them. But there's one more technique I wanted to show you guys today, and that's the slide. So we're going to jump back down to the fretboard and we're going to learn a lick that uses slide and some hammer-ons and pull-offs. So now let's throw some slides in with the bends and the hammer-ons. And again, this lick's going to be in the key of A minor. And we're going to use our second finger on the 7th fret here of the G string, and we're going to slide that up to the 9th fret. So all we do there is we pluck the 7th fret of the G string, and then we literally just slide our finger up to the 9th, like that, and that's a slide. So from there, we're going to go with our first finger on the 8th fret of the B string, third finger on the 10th fret, then first finger on the 8th fret of the first string, third finger on the 10th fret of the first string, and we're going to give that a little bend. So far we've got then from there we're going to bring that bend back down, so we're going to go. Then we're going to go pull off to the 8th fret. Then we're going to go to the 10th fret of our B string. So all together that sounds like this. And a bit faster. So one other thing I wanted to touch on was a thing called rhythmic variation. And what this is where we take a lick that we already know, and all we do is just change some of the rhythmic values of the notes that we're playing. So if we have a lick that is played with straight 8th notes, we can take one of those notes, and instead of playing it in 8th notes, we can take one note and make it a whole note. Or we can take the first 3 notes, for example, and turn them into a triplet. And it just changes the feel of the lick that we're playing, even though we're still playing the same notes. So this is a really cool concept because you can take one lick and you can turn it into 3 licks or 10 licks just by changing the rhythm values of the notes in that lick. So just before we wrap this lesson up, I just wanted to go over how you build a lick vocabulary. Now, the way that I think is best, and this is just my personal opinion, is by learning guitar solos. And not just learning 1 or 2, but learning a lot of them and a lot from different artists. So you could pick 5 artists and you could learn 5 different guitar solos. And you're going to retain licks from these solos in your head, and then you're going to be able to apply them when you improvise with the pentatonic scale. And for me, I've always found this is the best way to build a lick vocabulary. And when you're learning these solos, it's always a good idea to look at the licks that you're learning, see how they fit into the shapes of the cage system, so that you can move them around into different keys. And ultimately, by doing this, you're going to be borrowing licks from different people and different guitarists, but you're going to also be building your own style as you combine them together. And the end game is to have your own style. So that's my little tip for building a lick vocabulary. Thanks so much for watching part 3 of this series on the pentatonic scale. I really hope you guys are starting to get something out of it. You've learnt your first couple of licks now, and if you want to get your hands on the tabs for those licks and also the backing track that I played over at the start of the video, you can head over to my Patreon page and they're over there. I've got a link in the description for that one. So next time we're going to learn a few more licks and we're going to look at a couple of more techniques, and we're also going to start looking at dynamics and how we can use dynamics to kind of give our solos a little bit more feeling. So tune in for that one, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks very much.